Welcome back, everyone, to the Craftverse series, episode 375, where I'm still trying to get this mountain removed. And apparently I have a sheep overseer in the background who's trying to climb up to get a better view. While he's doing that, let's go ahead and remove another layer. Might notice my pick is about to break, and I am 100% okay with that because of the shulkers that I have in my inventory currently. Being at the bottom of the world without an EXP restoration area, yeah, I had to just go ahead and commit to breaking a couple of picks. I've used an entire shulker box of Silk Touch pickaxes in the depths up to this point. And I must say, I am entirely grateful to Mojang for adding in the feature with the grindstone, or not the grindstone, the stone cutter, that lets you convert standard deep slate into cobbled deep slate. If it stayed useless forever, I would have been sad. But deep slate, without being regular mined or fortune mined, actually has a use now. So now you only really need to have one type of pickaxe, whereas before you kind of needed to have a fortune and a silk pick. Because if you're mining out stone, it was always better to have silk touch, but if you were mining out deep slate, the only thing you could really do with standard deep slate was cover over a hole if you were doing like PvP servers or something and you were trying to hide from people. And that'd be like the only real use to having silk touch for deep slate back then, but now it doesn't matter what you use it for, you can use it for standard cutting without needing to have a secondary pick. It also means you can have just one pick for mining sessions as well. Store up more ores that way and break them down when you get back. It would be cool if they added in another machine or something that lets you convert ore blocks into broken down ores. Not sure what that device would be called or what other function it could serve if there was a secondary function. I wasn't crouched again. That's fine. We're only up to this point. Not that big of a climb. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do if you sit down and think about all the options. It's just how difficult would it be to implement them and how messed up would it make the game if you did? It's pretty much the main reason they have any dilemmas on doing any updates that the fan base think about. They have to think about the balance of the game. It's like, does it really benefit anybody to leave your mobs as babies forever? Only if you're doing it for aesthetics. Or if you really don't want happy ghasts to grow up and be the full rideable version and you want them as like balloons. Otherwise it's just kind of silly because you don't get a benefit from having a baby horse. You can't ride them. They don't drop anything if they do die. Having a baby sheep, you don't get the wool from it. I don't think you can milk a baby cow either. It'd be an odd thing to try to do, to be fair. And now you must admit there is a part of you that is curious, because you probably never have tried. Too busy mining out this mountainous section to bother with that little test. So let me know in the comment section below if that is something that you are indeed curious about. Down to 76 already, that's pretty good. 78 is the main level of that platform plateau, so we're already below that. After doing probably 100 hours of just straight digging, gotta break out the compression gloves, man. It doesn't help that I'm doing this kind of like Java digging style as well. Not holding the button down, just mashing it to get as much digging as fast as possible. Because it is faster to just break the block individually than to hold it down and let it auto mine. Unless you have like vein miner or something, but this is a completely resource pack and add-on free world. There it goes. Well, good thing I already had another one ready to go. Brand new. Yes, this world has never had a resource pack add-on or otherwise added to it. I'm considering at a certain point adding in at least my resource packs that don't actually impact achievements on the game. It would be a lot easier to be able to mine things if I could see them a little bit better. But there are some things that are just... Sometimes you just want to play vanilla and you don't want all the extra features, bells and whistles and whatnot. Because I found myself when I was on the Awkward Kingdom or the SMP where there are mods and or add-ons, just kind of going, this makes the game kind of less fun to a degree. You gotta have some creative license, but if you're relying on a mod to do all the work for you, it's no different than using an AI. Some things, I will admit, the add-ons make much easier. Like doing this on the creative world, I always add in world utilities because that has a 3x3 pickaxe, which means I can just immediately get to the point where I want. Not like snap your fingers immediately, I mean literally 9 times as fast. Get to the point that you want. Mine through a whole mountain pretty quickly just to see what it looks like instead of having to slowly break one block for your feet and one block for your head. It breaks an additional block above that. Alright, we're finally down to the current land level. At least for this segment. Then I have to do it again for that segment. That one actually goes quite a ways farther, so this looks like it could be a finished product. And I think I'm going to start breaking down a little bit more of this area before I continue on. That way I can see the progression level and potentially start actually placing some stuff for, next week's episode start. We're like 10 minutes in at this point. I'm trying to get better at making my episodes 30 minutes and not 45. Because the challenge is supposed to be 2 hours a week and not 3. And again, I don't consider landscaping to necessarily guaranteed be gameplay. It depends on what you're doing. If you're just removing blocks, not necessarily. It depends on what you're removing. Obviously, building that would have constituted gameplay because that's a building job. Building the manor would have constituted it, but as I explained, those were very in-depth and detailed tutorials, which will be linked in the description of the video where I first aired them. So go check out my other videos and follow the links in the description to the original creators. Give them support and definitely let them know that I sent you. Because that is how we grow as a Minecraft community, by sharing our experiences. Don't need that. Don't need that. Give me the berries. We're going to go 1, 2, probably down from here, I think. We want to leave that. So everything from here down has to go. So that's going to be where the road level is. At least part of it. Okay. Break that out. We go 1, 2, 3, and then the drop down. Drop down bit. Oop. One additional too far. Eventually I'll be replacing the majority of this with moss, and I have access to it right now. I'm just not trying to use it yet. Want to get the final dimensions in place before I worry about changing out material. Yeah, okay, we can leave that here for now. Do I want to do that? From that point, it's one additional line, so we remove that line beyond it, and then we put that back in, and we're good. All right, so now we go 2, get in the hole. Pop that out, because that's where the light goes. 1, 2, 3. Leave that there for the moment. That's going to be where the actual thing goes. So I'm trying to break this out in advance for what actually goes here. One, two, three, hole. Break that out. Okay, so in order to do that, we then have to break these out. let's take a look at this. We have layer 1 and then the main road. So we have layer 1 and then the main road. So everything out this way has to be removed. Swap that out temporarily. Eventually that will be again swapped out for moss. It just gives me a dimension so I don't break it. Now we can break everything on this layer all the way down, because it's just going to be in the way of the next stage. Which means it's going to get a little dark over here, but that's fine. It's peaceful mode, so I don't have to worry about creepers spawning. Still survival, just peaceful. Way I figure it, I'm not going to be reverting it back to normal mode until I've already gotten the majority of that underside done. Or at least the 100 by 100 block cube I'm mining out in the depths. So that's going to be a while. I'm trying to do some overworld stuff on camera and not having you guys watch me dig out the same hole for like 200 hours. At least this way you get a change of scenery. And it gives me a chance to have a change of scenery. Which is also important, so I don't lose my mind in deep sleep. I mean, to be fair, I did lose my mind a long time ago. But I don't need to make it worse. Hello, chicken. Most of this will despawn. You see what kind of junk I had to fill in this area with. And now I'm having to rip it all back out. I just kind of filled it in with whatever I had in a shulker box at the time. Covered it over with grass, and now I'm removing this layer because this is going to go down to a more permanent layer that I can put actual builds on top of. So then I have to figure out what other cool builds can I fit in here, because I've already built the Dark Oak House and its colorized variant. I don't want to build it a third time. So I'd have to put something else, potentially of equivalent height, over here. It doesn't have to perfectly mirror it, otherwise I would have to move that house, and I am not moving that house. This is not a Lightmatica situation where I can just take the layout and move it over. I'd have to completely eyeball it. I know there is a Bedrock version for Lightmatica. I'm not sure what it's called, but it does the same thing. I'm just not program savvy like that. Hell, I've only recently figured out how to run emulators on my PC setup, because I've never been a PC gamer. Okay, Now that we've trimmed this down, let's go one more layer down. Bring this down. We're gradually getting to the point where we can start putting in the road. I'd have to go grab that shulker box back. Yeah, probably due to how much time I've been spending on the game recently. My roommate got me a compression glove that kind of makes me feel like a Duelist Kingdom participant from Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because really all it's missing in order to look just like those gloves is the little star chips section. I pointed that out and she's like, yeah, I could see that. Now I can't unsee it. Thank you for that. Yeah, you're welcome. And if you haven't seen the Duelist Kingdom arc of Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Then you should probably go check that out. It's not true to the modern mechanics of the game in any respect, but it is interesting to watch. I've recently started rewatching some Battle City stuff that's popped up in my feed. Just while doing all of this landscaping and digging off camera. It's something good to chill and do mindless, tedious stuff over. It does make me want to play more Master Duel, though. Especially with the release of new cards. I am most likely not going to be doing any of the meta dueling. I'm not the biggest fan of hand trap decks. I will use them occasionally, but not as extensively as you need in order to survive a modern meta. I like building Yugi style decks that are a bunch of different archetypes that are kind of thrown together that somehow have synergy and most people can't figure out how the deck works. Obviously there's big potential to brick and have turn loss, but the pop-offs are worth it in my opinion. Because when that deck works, it really works. You can get a turn 1 kill if you're not too bricked up. But there are some other style decks I dabble in that also have been improved on with recent releases. I just have to get the cards. I don't think they're fully integrated into Master Duel yet. I think they might still be in the OCG stage. But by the time I get seriously back into the game again, they should be included. Pretty sure my days of doing in-person dueling are well and truly behind me. It is still a goal of mine to eventually finish a physical copy of my main deck, which has some pretty expensive cards, so... Rarity is not really my concern, just having the effect and the card is what I want. But the effects themselves... not the cheapest, must say. You ever had a goal of completing a card game deck or having something from your game of choice physically in the real world? If so, what kind of stuff would you have wanted from your game to be in reality? Let me know in the comments section below. Be interesting to hear what kind of shenanigans my community could get up to if given the ability to have their item of choice physically in their hand. I know there's quite a few people who would probably be like, I want the sword from Halo. And that's a pretty cool thing to have. I think you can get a physical copy of that, just not one that's obviously a plasma sword or some space laser sword. That wouldn't be very safe, now would it? Be the equivalent of a lightsaber. There's also a vast number of people who'd be like, I want a Pokeball. A functioning Pokeball. Yeah, but how functional would it be without Pokemon? So you're saying you want Pokemon to exist too? Some of those Pokedex entries are quite terrifying. Some are just outright impossible to actually exist. Then again, if you don't believe anything is impossible, then Pokemon seems plausible. Like, the closest thing I come to that belief-wise is that real life is basically Minecraft. I mean, you go into one chunk that you haven't loaded in a very long time and you see the changes, like, appear in your vision. You know at all times certain locations exist, but you can't see them because they're outside your render distance. I like to imagine the little streaks that you see in the sky. Obviously, they're plumes from aircraft, but they look like someone just flew with an elytra. And then there's the case of certain builds that people question, like, how could they have built this with the tools they had? I don't know, Minecraft physics? I don't know, just little things like that. Not full-on conspiracy mode, just... it's kind of cool to think about. Alright, let's remove this layer and expand outward a little bit. This is, I believe, the final layer for this main section, unless I need to continue going down. Actually, before I get too far ahead of myself, let's find out. Because this should be the final layer up at 70. Yeah, this is the final layer for that. So we're good. Just got to convert all of this stone and stuff into grass. And we can start adding in some of the textures to the landscape. Much of this will remain dirt. We're already making significant progress with this section. I might actually be able to start adding in fountains soon. I'd love to be able to get the road in, though. That will come pretty soon. This layer won't need to have as much in the way of mossification. Majority of it will still remain grass. No! Not up. This way. Nope. If I not have any more grass. I have dirt, though. So that will have to convert on its own. Almost to the road. And I can extend the pathing out next episode. Got a little bit more work ahead of me. And then we gotta actually get the road railings in all the way down to there. And then we have to remove that whole mound. Whew. Project's taking a while. What do you think of the progress we've made so far? Do let me know in the comment section below if there's something that you think that we could build in this area that would be of equivalent size and or fit of those builds that we have stuffed into what I am now mirroring onto this side of the plateau. I do still have a couple more slots open. I just have to find some really cool builds. Catch you in the next episode, everybody.